Hey there everybody, it's Nathan Cool with nathancoolphoto.com, and in this tutorial I want to show how you can do color corrections on window pulls, something that you may have come across if you've seen screens in windows or you had a window open and you start seeing some differences between what might be outside if the window is open or maybe a screen is in there. You have one pane that's darker than another one. So I'm going to show how to take it from something that's off color, a little bit possibly different exposure, and make those both match. Now I'm going to show two different examples, and both of these were for luxury homes. The first one I'm going to dive into to give you an example. It rents for $12,000 a month, so it's not your typical type of gig. If you recall from my prior video on the real estate photography report, that this is one of those gigs that does pay very well. So it's worth the time to put in this little extra effort, but it's another tool that you can use when you run across something like this to be able to offer it. Obviously there is more work involved with it, so there is an upsell on it. Once again, those I showed in the real estate photography report, going down into areas like this happened to be Santa Monica, right on the beach, where yes, I am getting paid a lot more to do those, so it's not your typical run-of-the-mill MLS type of shoots. Now, if you're not familiar with window pulls, I have other videos on that on my channel. Check the description of this video for some of those videos so you understand what a window pull is, and you can get started on doing these so you can basically get that good view from the outside using Flash without having to cut all the windows in. I'm going to be describing that a little bit in here, and also I talk about this in a great detail, as you know, throughout my real estate photography series, and especially my book on interiors and the lighting guide, and I've got a link to all that as well in the description for this video. So anyways, I've got two examples that I want to go through with you, showing if there's a window open or if there's just screen in the window, and different techniques that you can use then to overcome this problem and get those colors to match. So you're ready to see how this is done? Let's get started. So let's start off with this example, and this is a primary example of where this would be done. Now this is a house that's on the water. This one happened to be in Oxnard Harbor. The second one I'm going to show you is Santa Monica. This particular one, this was only about a $3 million listing, I believe it was, compared to when we get to the next example, which was just a 2-bedroom condo there on Santa Monica, which once again rents for over $12,000 a month. So once again, a little bit of extra effort is worth it for jobs like this, but you can use these techniques for a variety of things. See how you can fit that into your budget for what you're going to offer your clients. So anyways, once again, if you've never seen a window pull done before, and that's kind of where I am at this part of the process, check those other videos in the description. To run through it though real quick, how this all came to be, there was a flash shot, and you can see that I'm able to get the correct colors using the flash. Did the Flash-ambient blending with just a luminosity shot here, ambient shot, luminosity mode, 50%, and then I do the darken mode window pull. That's the next layer up here. If you look down in the layers, and you can see I've got that masked in, and of course using darken mode window pull, that allows me to be real rough around the edges of where that would be. In fact, take a look at the mask. You can see I just cut right around that entire area. Didn't have to cut it in, paint it in, so that's where the advantage comes in of using that darken mode window pulls I show in other videos throughout the books. Then of course, something like this, it takes the effort. Let me zoom in here a little bit. It is worthwhile for the effort to then use a repair layer. And the repair layer, which is here, you can see the difference. Minor little things. It took out some reflections on the windows, and that is primarily just a shot excuse me, that did not have flash. Now I can see that there's a little bit of a line here, and all that you have to do is you can draw a line around this, but it's the idea is that you have this and you can paint that in without getting too close there. These aren't cut in. This is just to get rid of some of those reflections. Anyways, repair layer, just like I show in the other videos. Now the problem comes in, what do we do about this area here? Well, there's a couple things we're going to do, and before getting to this particular example, I'm going to show the simpler one, which is when we jump over here to the Santa Monica property. So on here, it's basically the same thing. Run through the layers real quick again. I've got my flash shot. Did a little color correction like I show in one of my prior videos, just a few videos back, where we used the curves layer for that to get rid of the cast. Some of the ambient shot here, and you can see where I erased some of it off of the patio, so that didn't show up too much. A little bit of desaturation on the ceiling, as I've shown before, and then here comes the darken mode window pull, and this is a hot mess. This place, yeah, rents for $12,000 $12,000 a month. Sometimes you wouldn't think about that when you take a look at how beat up some of this stuff is. It's from being on the water, and that's so much of the screen has gotten damaged when we zoom in here. It's just, and of course, here's my flash reflection in here. It's just not all that looking well. So that's where we once again hit that repair layer. So the repair layer is put on there. You can see though, even without a flash hitting it, you can see there's a difference in color between these two windows. So no matter what I do with the repair layer, it's not going to get rid of this color over here. So that's because the pane on the right here has the screen door over it. So this is the screen here. You can see that's covering it. Now, one way to fix this is just remove all the screens. And that's just not always an option. It's very difficult to do that. So very quickly, one thing you can do though is just remember that when the door is closed, like in this case, the glass that's treated looking out to the outside is equal on both of these panes. The problem that we're up against is the screen. So the color's fine. In the other example, the first one I started showing that I'm going to get to next is going to be the more complicated, where we have to deal with color. Here, it's very simple. All we need to do is change some of the levels. And if I did that, you can see real quickly, that's what the result will be. Let's see how this is done. What you would do is you go to the lighter section here, and you take your lasso tool and you go to polygon. Of course, that's up here, and I've got the polygon lasso tool. Get in very close, and you want to try to draw a real nice lasso. Now, one of the things you will see is that when you run across a problem like this, when it's the multi-million-dollar view, they have views that are showing. So typically you have these big open areas to work with to draw big polygons. It's not where you've got many blinds blocking a little bit. In those cases, window pulls aren't even necessary. Just typically blow out a lot of that window. Anyways, now that you've got this area selected, you would go up to a layer, and you want a new adjustment layer, and we'll select a levels layer. Now what that did, name it whatever you'd like. Once you do that, it will make a layer down here with that already masked. Zoom out a little bit, and now we can just change our levels. And what you want to do is darken, so you bring the left slider over until you start seeing a decent color match. Once you get something that you're happy with, then you're done. You zoom out like this. That looks probably about pretty well. I can also do that over in this section here if I wanted to as well. So I could take a polygon tool and try to get really close. And once again, there's a lot of added effort here. And so you got to make sure that for the property you're dealing with, that it makes it worthwhile. So there, that added some in there. I could get fancy, get some of that overhang out. And you can see some of it looks like it's cut out. It's not. Those are the panes of glass that are outside on that balcony. So anyways, now we've got something with just that levels layer, and you can see what a difference, if I keep turning that off and on, what that makes. So that's the easy part. Now, if we were to just do our normal workflow and we go layer, flatten image, excuse me, I won't do that. This is actually a Photoshop file. And if I were to save this, then I can go back into Lightroom and then apply the final bump to it. And you've probably seen me do this hundreds of times on this channel. Now, why did I save this as a PSD file, not a TIFF? In this case, there's a lot of work involved with it, and once again, this is a much higher paying gig, so you want to be able to save your work. When you're working with the higher end clients and working on high end stuff like this, inevitably you will get some type of feedback. Hey, could you edit this out? Could you change that? All upsell things that you will make extra money on, but something that, make it faster if you save it as a PSD file. So anyways, we've got our Photoshop file saved. It is loaded back over into Lightroom automatically. And then over here, all I have to do is start applying the bumps. So let's apply just our standard light bump to it, and wow, what a difference. So this is what it was coming out of Photoshop. Here it corrected our verticals and put in all that stuff. So anyways, that looks good. And once again, the final image then, once I get to export it, looks like this. Okay, now let's go to the more complex example. Just to recap though, one of the keys to this was a levels layer. Now, we're going to have something though where that would not be the case, because here we've got an issue where we've got actually two panes of glass because the doors are open. Now, I could have kept the door closed on this. I thought that, well, this would be more inviting. I'll open the doors, and why not? I love a challenge. So what we need to do though is two things. If I just add levels to it, the color is completely different because, especially with newer windows, these are UV treated, so there's a green tint to it, which, by the way, can throw your white balance off immensely across the room. It'll start throwing a red tint because there's so much green coming in from the sun. Anyways, it's double the trouble. You can see where if it was just a single pane between the doors, it's that. And of course, now we got double that type of color, twice as dark. So the best thing to do is start sampling that color and get yourself a color layer. And that's what I had above here, but I'm going to do it myself manually here. So what we want to do is go down to where we've got everything selected. That will be in the window pull or the repair layer. For instance, this is the repair layer. I can select the repair layer, not the mask, select the foreground color here, and then sample the color that I want. So let's go in here, and you can see that's just about what I had selected before, and I'll say OK. Now what we want to do is add a fill layer. So we'll go to Layer, and we want New Fill Layer, and we want a solid color. Call it whatever you like, and it'll have that color then selected. And then we just say OK. Now what we want to do is change that into color mode. So it's normal, so we go to color. And then invert the layer mask. I like to do it by Control-I. Now what you can do is select inside of here. You don't have to get too close, but I'm going to draw a polygon anyways and just select in here and like that. And then reverse your colors from white to black to black to white. On the mask, hit delete, boom, there's your color. Now erase the unwanted portions down here with your eraser tool, and now you've got the correct color. So at least we got some color going on that's starting to match. You can see how this is starting to come together, and before and now after. So the sky is starting to get that color, and you can brush in a little bit as you see fit on the horizon, whatever you think you need to do. Being in color mode, it just is going to change color. It's not going to block anything. Now we do the same technique then that we did before on the last example with using a levels layer. Now the easy way to do this here, since we already have this selected, looks like I got a little bit down here, by the way, I'll get rid of down off that house. There's an easier way, since we already cut in where we wanted to. We don't have to worry about doing this again. Let's just make a new levels layer. So we go up to, once again, layer, and we'll select new adjustment layer and levels, and that's it. Okay. Now let's get rid of this layer mask. We'll just delete it. Go down here to the color layer that we had, remember that we masked in, and do a control click on it. You can see that then selects where our color is. Go up to that levels layer and click on this little icon down here, and that will apply the same mask to it. So now we have a mask on just that area. You can see those masks look identical. Now we go over to the levels properties by clicking on the little levels thing, and once again, just like we did in our last example, we start bringing that left slider over, and that starts then matching what we had. Now once again, you can change some of the mask. You can paint in, paint out, whatever you want. So for instance, I could brush in a little bit more on the horizon down here to darken some of that where the palm trees are. That looks good. Another thing too is that notice how it's different between these two. So I might be able to, in here, take even a little polygon, draw it in here, and add that to the levels layer also. And to add something, once again, you reverse the colors with X, and you can see that reverses the colors over here. Hit the delete key, and that paints that in. Hit X to reverse those colors, Control D to deselect it. So you can see how that immediately put that in. It wasn't as bad. Didn't need the colors because the color was already coming through the glass here. It had none of that, and we would do the same thing then to that section. So that's looking pretty good compared to what we had. Without the layers that we added for adjustments, this is what it looked like. And here, by adding a color layer, we got some more color going on, and then we got our levels layer to add that too. So that looks a lot better than what it did. Now, there's a lot more you could do to this. If you don't like that color, and this is why it's good to use a color fill layer, you just go down to your color fill layer and you double click the color icon. In here then you can start selecting other colors. Let's say that we wanted to sample something else. We could probably go over here and sample this maybe if we wanted to, maybe sample the water. You see how it's changing? Let's just hit cancel. go back and do that again. We can do it manually. Let's say we want it bluer. Just move our slider up here to where it's a little bit bluer. We can start seeing if some of that will change and change some of our tint. So anyways, that gives you the ability to change the color as you see fit. If you really want then the colors to match 100%, you would also paint those same colors over top of this other glass. So anyways, that's how you get that to start matching up. Once again, color, layer, and levels. Going back though to the simplest example is keep your doors closed so that you have the same treated glass with the same color going through the glass, and then all you need to do is just add that levels layer. Well, I hope this video was useful for you and that you can use some of this in your photography as well. If you did like this video and you'd like to see more, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. It won't cost anything, and as soon as one of these videos is posted, you'll be the first to know. Thanks a lot for watching. Until next time, take care, be safe, and get out there and shoot something.